In this video, we want to look at graphing equations of lines that are in a slightly new format than what we've done before. And so before we go to that, let's quickly review the forms that we've seen them in before. And so the first way that we started graphing lines, they looked like this: y equals 2x minus 3. And so what we talked about was that we could graph this line without making a list of all the solutions and then plotting those points, but we could actually just look at this equation and graph the line, because one of the numbers in this equation is the slope, and one of the numbers in this equation is the y-intercept. So to start this problem, which one of these numbers is the slope and which one is the y-intercept? Okay, so the 2 in this problem is the slope, and the -3 is the y-intercept. So in other words, when we look at this problem, we would say, okay, the slope is going to equal 2, or we might even say 2 over 1. And that the y-intercept is going to equal 0, 3. And so what that means is that on our graph, we already know it goes to this point 0, 3. So we'll find the point 0, 3. So remember, the point 0, 3 means you go over 0 and you go up 3. And so that's going to be our starting point. The slope of 2 over 1 means that the rise is going to be 2 and that the run is going to be 1. And so from that point that we just graphed, we're going to rise 2, we're going to go up 2, and then we're going to go over 1, and that's going to be where the next point on this line is going to be. Now, we could continue doing that if we wanted to. We could go up 2 and over 1 again, but once we have 2 points, that's actually enough for us to draw a straight line in. And so we'll take those 2 points and do the best we can to graph our line. And so that would be the line. That would be the answer to the equation y equals 2x minus 3. After we practiced that for a while, then we changed the form just a little bit. And instead of it looking like y equals 2x minus 3, it looked like this: x plus 3y equals -6. But our idea was that we wanted to make it look like the problems that we just did. And so we tried to rearrange this equation so it would do that. And so on one side of this equation, we put everything that was a y, and on the other side, we put everything that was not a y. Okay, so when we look at this problem, we'll leave the x where it's at, or we'll move the x, sorry. We're going to leave the 3y where it's at, and we're going to leave the -6 where it's at. Now, we can't combine together the -x and the -6, so we'll leave them separate like that. Now, we still just want to have a y over here. We don't want to have a 3y, and so just like normal, when we solve an equation, we'll divide by 3. And so 3y divided by 3, that's just the y that we want. Remember, this is a -1 in front of the x, so this is -1 divided by 3. That doesn't simplify, and so we'll just leave it as -1 over 3. And then -6 over 3, that would equal -2. And so now our equation is y equals -1/3 x minus 2. So which of those numbers would be the slope? And which number would be the y-intercept? So -1/3 is the slope, and -2 is the y-intercept. Or we could write it as the ordered pair, 0, -2. So on your graph, where would you put your first point at? Well, you would put it at 0, -2. And then for a slope of -1 over 3, what would you do? Okay, from that point, you would go down 1, and then you would go right 3. Remember, a negative slope just means you're going down instead of going up. You're still going to the right. And so then again, we could connect those 2 points together. And for those of you that are doing your problems on MyOpenMath, you don't even really have to draw this straight line. You just click one point, you click the next point, and it draws the line in for you. So, but that would be our answer for this equation: x plus 3y equals -6. So today, what you're going to do is, instead of going from this form, you're going to go from a new form, and it's going to be a form that we spend some more time on in the upcoming days. But for the assignment today, all you're going to be doing is rearranging this new form. And so here's our new form. It says y minus 3 is equal to 2/3 times x minus 3. We want to arrange that into the form that we've been graphing it in. In other words, slope-intercept form, the form that says y equals. So we're going to take this equation, y minus 3 equals 2/3 times x minus 3. And we're going to try to get y by itself. So in other words, we're going to put everything that's a y on one side, everything that's not a y on the other side. Now, before we can do that, though, remember, in an equation, we always want to get rid of parentheses first. So we're going to do the parentheses. We're going to take 2/3 times x and 2/3 times -3. So for 2/3 times x, that would just be 2/3 times 1x. 2/3 times 1 is just 2/3, so it'll just be 2/3 x. Now we want to take 2/3 times -3. So if you multiply 2/3 times -3, what do you get? Okay, when you take 2/3 times -3, you get -2. So now this equation, after we've gotten rid of the parentheses, looks like this. Y minus 3 is equal to 2/3 x minus 2. Again, we want just the y's on this side. So we need to move this -3. So when you move the -3, what's it going to become? All right, it's going to become a +3. So now on this side, we have a +3. So we have a y on this side. We moved the -3. We're going to keep the 2/3 x. And then we have a -2 and a +3. When we put together that -2 and +3, what would -2 plus 3 be? It would be +1. Okay, now we have this equation in slope-intercept form. So as we look at that equation in slope-intercept form, which one of those numbers would be the slope? Well, it would be 2/3. So when you're doing this problem on My Open Math, you would put the 2/3 in that blank. And then what number is your y-intercept? Well, it's the 1, so you would put a 1 in that blank. And then for the equation, that's just what we have written down here. We would just type in y equals 2/3x plus 1. And so that's all you're going to do for that problem, is you're just going to rearrange this equation. Now, in some problems, you're also, after you rearrange the equation, you're going to make a graph. And so if you look at the next example that we have here, this is the next type of problem you're going to be doing on your assignment. So again, we have this equation, y minus 3 is equal to 4 parentheses x minus 1. We want to rearrange that and put that in slope-intercept form. So go ahead and rearrange that and put it in slope-intercept form. So just like the last one, you should have started by doing the parentheses. So when you do the parentheses, you get 4 times x is 4x, and 4 times -1 is -4. So that's our equation after we get rid of the parentheses. Now again, all the y's on this side, all the not y's on this side. So we're going to move that -3. So when you move the -3, it becomes a +3. Everything else stayed where it's at. So the y is still there. The 4x is still over here. And on this side, we can combine together the -4 plus 3. And if you take -4 plus 3, you get -1. So just like on the last problem, the equation would be y equals 4x minus 1. What would the slope be? Slope would be 4. What would the y-intercept be? All right, well, it's going to be -1. And so now when we go to make our graph, where would you put your first point? Okay, your first point would be at 0, -1. And then we want to do a slope of 4. So you're going to go up 4 and over 1. And then, of course, that would get connected together with a straight line. And so that's the equation. Those would be all the solutions to that equation that we started with up there. Now, also as one more reminder today, on your assignment, you're going to be doing some problems that we've been doing before, where you are trying to write the equation of a line, because this is going to kind of tie all this in tomorrow. But in this assignment, we just want to write the equation of this line. So remember, the equation of the line that you've been graphing, it's looked like this. Y is equal to whatever the slope is times x, and then whatever the y-intercept is. So we can look at those and we can get that information off this graph. So remember, the y-intercept, this is the y-axis. The y-intercept is just the number that it crosses at. So in this case, that dot is at 3. So this part of your equation, since it's a +3, is going to be a +3. So that's what we put down for the y-intercept. Okay, what's the slope of this line? Okay, remember, for slope, you do rise over run. And so as we do rise over run, to get from the left point to the right point, we're going to go down 3, and we're going to go over 4. So rise over run would be -3 over 4. That would be what the slope is. So for the slope part of this equation, it's going to be -3 over 4. So then that just means our equation would be y equals -3 over 4x plus 3. And so that's what you're going to type in where it asks you for the equation part of that problem. Okay, so hopefully that will help you with all the problems that you're doing on your assignment today. Again, make sure if you have any questions that you send me an email or send me a message through Canvas, and I will try to get back with you and help you if I can. All right, good luck. And that is all we have for today.